Hello everyone, welcome back to the second video on domain and range. In the first video, we discuss what is domain, how do we define domain, and then we solved a couple of questions which you can expect in the exam. Now in this video, what we'll be doing is we'll be understanding what exactly is range, how do we define it, and then how do we calculate for different type of functions. So if this is the first video on domain and range that you're watching, then I would suggest you to please go through video number 1, because unless and until you understand domain, you won't be able to understand what is range. Okay, understanding the domain is important, and you can say that range is basically a subset of domain. Okay, you need to know what is domain, and then only you'll be able to calculate range. All right, let's move on. So when we spoke regarding domain in the previous video, I told you that domain is basically set of real input values for which we get real output values. For example, we took a couple of examples also. Let's take one now. For example, if you talk about this function fx is equal to root of x minus 2. Now you know that whenever you talk about the function under root can never be negative. So I need to ensure one thing, that is x minus 2 should always be greater than equal to 0, which means x should always be greater than equal to 2. Which means x should always be greater than equal to 2. So this will basically be the domain of the function. So any value from 2 to infinity, when plugged inside this expression, that is root of x minus 2, it's going to give you a real output value. So the domain is simply 2 to infinity, including 2. Now when you talk about the range, when you talk about this term range, these real output values that you're getting, this is basically known as the range. This is basically known as the range. That is, for example, let's talk about the same function fx is equal to root of x minus 2. When you'll provide an input value of x greater than equal to 2, you will receive some output values. For example, when I'm going to provide x is equal to 2, I'm going to get an output of 0. I'm going to get output of 0. If I'm going to provide an input value of 3, I'm going to get output of 1. If I'm going to provide input value of 4, I'm going to get output of root 2, and so on and so forth. When you'll provide an input value of infinity, you will get an output value of infinity. So for every corresponding value of x, you're getting a different corresponding output value. Now all these corresponding output values is basically known as your range. Is basically known as your range. So the range in this case will be from 0 to infinity. Range in this case will simply be 0 to infinity. So the real output values that you obtain when you plug in real input values, so those real output values are basically known as your range. This is basically what is meant by the term range. Now for every function, there is a separate way of calculating range. For example, let's talk about linear functions. Let's say if I ask you that calculate the range for y is equal to 2x minus 4 divided by 5, for example. I want to calculate the range for this function. Now what you can do is, rather than calculating the range for this function, you can calculate the domain for the inverse function. Find out the inverse of this function and then calculate the domain for that. That would be the range for y is equal to 2x minus 4 divided by 5. Now how do you calculate inverse and what effectively is inverse? Let's first understand that. So you have a function that is fx is equal to 2x minus 4 divided by 5. This is the function. Now if you want to calculate the inverse of this function, what effectively you are asked to calculate, they're asking you to calculate the value of x in terms of fx. If they're asking you to calculate the inverse of the function, then they're basically asking you to calculate the value of x in terms of fx. As of now, you have fx in terms of x. That is, fx is 2x minus 4 divided by 5. Okay, this is a function. That function is 2x minus 4 divided by 5. If you want to calculate the inverse, then calculate x in terms of fx. So let's do that. I can write 2x minus 4 will be equal to 5fx. Then I can say that 2x will be equal to 5fx plus 4. Then I can say that x will be equal to 5fx plus 4 divided by 2. Now the last step is you will simply replace fx by x, and you will say that the inverse function, which is usually represented as something like this, will be 5x plus 4 divided by 2. This will be the inverse of 2x minus 4 divided by 5. Now calculate the domain for 5x plus 4 divided by 2. That will become the range for 2x minus 4 divided by 5. That will become the range for 2x minus 4 divided by 5. So let's do that. So if I want to calculate the domain for 5x plus 4 divided by 2, I know that I don't have to worry about anything, because neither the function is in the root form, neither function is 1 over something form. It's simply a linear function. Replace x by any value, you will always get real output. Replace x by any value, you will always get real output. Think of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. Think of any value. You will always get real output. So you can say that the domain for this function is basically from negative infinity to infinity. So the range for the parent function will be from negative infinity to infinity. So whenever you have a linear function, this is the easiest way to calculate the domain. Calculate its inverse, calculate domain for the inverse, that would be the range for the original function. You can make a note of it. Whenever you have a linear function, try to calculate the inverse of that. It's very easy. Calculate the inverse of a linear function. It's very easy. You just need to know the value of x in terms of fx, or you just need to know the value of x in terms of y. And then in the last step, replace fx by x or y by x. That will be the inverse. Whenever you have a linear function, always calculate the inverse, then calculate the domain. Trust me, calculating domain, it's far more easier in comparison to calculating the range directly. For different functions, there are different ways. Okay. Anyways, so this is what range is. The real output values that you will be getting once you'll start plugging the input values. So those output values will become your range. All right, let's move on. Let's try some questions. So you need to calculate the range of this function. Now, understand, I'm not asking you to pause the video and try and solve this one, because I know some of you would not be able to do that. If you know how to solve it, please go ahead. Please pause the video and try this one. If you do not know how to solve or how to calculate the range of a quadratic function, then please understand. Now the problem here is that you can't calculate the inverse for this function. It will actually become tiresome. Okay, so we can't do it that way. Now this is basically a parabolic equation. That is, the graph for this function will come out to be a parabola. The graph for this function will come out to be a parabola. Now you can either have an upward parabola or you can either have a downward parabola. These are the only two options that you can have. If the coefficient of x square is positive, then it's an upward parabola. If coefficient of x square is negative, then it's a downward parabola. So in this case, this will come out to be a downward parabola because the coefficient of x square is -1. Okay. Now the way to calculate the range whenever you're gonna have a quadratic function, the process is known as completing the squares. Now, if you have gone through my this video on functions, how to draw the functions and the basics of functions, there I have explained like different ways of writing a quadratic function or different ways of writing a quadratic equation. I gave you three ways. The first way was the general way, which is ax square plus bx plus c, in which the function is also given to us. Second way I gave you was the root form, that is fx is equal to x minus a into x minus b. And the third form I gave you was the vertex form, that is fx is equal to a into x minus b whole square plus c. Okay. Now, whenever we convert the general form of a quadratic equation to the vertex form, whenever we convert the general form, that is ax square plus bx plus c, to the vertex form, which is a into x minus b whole square plus c, we use the process that is also known as completing the squares. Now why we are doing that, understand. When we spoke regarding the basics of parabola and when we spoke regarding the vertex of a parabola, I told you two things. That whenever you define the term vertex, what is vertex? Vertex is known as the tip of the parabola. It's the point where the parabola changes its direction. It's the highest point for a downward parabola or the lowest point for an upward parabola. This point is very important. Vertex is the highest point for a downward parabola or it is the lowest point for an upward parabola. For example, this is your highest point, this right here, and this right here, this is your lowest point. So highest point means maximum value, lowest point means minimum value. So once I'm able to convert, see the logic behind this, once I'm able to convert this into the vertex form, I know it's basically a downward parabola. So I'll be able to figure out the maximum value of the quadratic equation. And I know that's the maximum value. I cannot have a value more than that. So I'll be able to find out the range. That's the logic I'm going to use here. Let's say, for example, let's say hypothetically for this downward parabola, the vertex comes out to be -2, 10. So what do you mean by -2, 10? All right, it is the vertex, fine, fair enough. But what do you mean by this? This basically means that at x is equal to -2, the maximum value of the function or of the parabola is equal to 10. This is basically what it means. That it is attaining its maximum value at -2, that being equal to 10. This is basically what it means. So what we are going to do is we are going to convert this general form into the vertex form. Let's do that. So I have minus x square plus 6x plus 5. I'm going to take a negative common. This will become x square minus 6x, and I'm going to keep 5 out. This will become minus x square minus 6x plus 9 minus 9 plus 5. So this is x minus 3 whole square. This will become x minus 3 whole square minus 9 plus 5, or I can rewrite this as minus of x minus 3 whole square plus 9 plus 5. So your function can be rewritten as minus of x minus 3 whole square plus 40. So the bottom line is this quadratic function that you have, that is given to you in the question, using the vertex form, you will be able to rewrite this as minus of x minus 3 whole square plus 40. Now we know that whenever you talk about a square quantity is always greater than or equal to 0. And if it has a negative sign in front of it, which will give you the result that this quantity will always be less than or equal to 0. So if I want to calculate the maximum value of negative x minus 3 whole square plus 14, the maximum value is this 14. And that will be when x is equal to 3. Because take any other value of x apart from 3, that negative x minus 3 whole square will always be negative. For example, take 1, so that will become minus 4. Take 0, that will become negative 9. So at x is equal to 3, this function is going to give you the maximum value, which is fx is equal to 14. So I know that if I talk about the range is negative infinity to 14. Because 14 is the maximum value. All possible values or all values less than 14 are possible. So this is the way you calculate range for a quadratic equation using the concept of completing the squares, because you need to know the vertex. Vertex is the highest or the lowest point depending upon the parabola. If it is the highest point, then all points or all values lesser than that are applicable. If it is an upward parabola, then all values higher than that are possible. Okay. So whenever you have a parabolic equation, this is the way to do it. All right, let's move on. Pause the video and try this one, please. All right, let's try this one. So again, you have y is equal to x minus 2 divided by x plus 3. Again, you have linear divided by linear. Try to calculate the inverse of it. Okay. So I basically have y in terms of x. In order to calculate the inverse, I need x in terms of y. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna write xy, basically cross multiplying it, plus 3y, that is equal to x minus 2. I'm gonna have x minus xy is equal to 3y plus 2. Or I'm gonna have x 1 minus y is equal to 3y plus 2. and I'm gonna have x is equal to 3y plus 2 divided by 1 minus y. Or the inverse of this function will basically become 3x plus 2 divided by 1 minus x. The inverse of this function will become 3x plus 2 divided by 1 minus x. Now calculate the domain for this. Now the numerator part will have no concerns. It's just the denominator part that you have to take into consideration. Now we know that the denominator can never be equal to 0. Denominator can never be equal to 0. Which means 1 minus x cannot be 0, which means x cannot be 1. Apart from that, x can be anything. Apart from that, x can be anything. X can be positive, x can be negative, it can be anything. So the domain for this inverse function is negative infinity to infinity. Apart from that, number 1. So range for the parent function, that is range for this function, will be negative infinity to infinity apart from 1. That's your answer. I hope this is clear. So let's move on. Okay, pause the video and try this question, please. So this is function Lx, which is equal to 1 over x minus 3, and you have a mod on that. Okay, try this one out. All right, let's see what we can do with this one. Now we'll be using our logic also. We will simply not be just solving it just for the fact that I have a linear equation in the denominator. I'm going to use my logic. See, I have this function that is Lx is equal to mod of 1 over x minus 3. Now I have a constant value in the numerator, and that is none of my concern because it's a positive constant value, so I should not be worried about it. The only thing I have to think of is the x minus 3 part in the denominator. That is the x minus 3 part in the denominator. Now I also know one thing, that if I have a mod to this entire function, I know that this value will always be greater than or equal to 0. That is, Lx can never be negative, that's one thing for sure. So no matter what will be the output or what will be the result of Lx when you're going to start plugging in different values of x, one thing is for sure, no matter what value of x you put, if you talk about Lx will always be from 0 to infinity. Now we just need to finalize if there are any numbers which we can't consider. Okay, let's see how we can do that. If I take x to be a very high number, if I take x to be a very high value, let's suppose if I take it to be like 10,000 or 10 million or 10 billion or something like that, I'm gonna have Lx which will be 1 divided by a very high value, and then a mod to that. Like for example, if you go 10 to the power 14, 10 to the power 15, 10 to the power 16. So the higher the value of x is, can I say overall the fraction is gonna decrease? Because if I take, let's suppose if I take x to be 10 to the power 16, then it will be 1 divided by 10 to the power 16 minus 3. Now 10 to the power 16 minus 3 is almost equal to 10 to the power 16. And 1 over 10 to the power 16 is 10 to the power minus 16, which is like 16 zeros after decimal. Sorry, 15 zeros and then 1. 16 places after decimal. So can I say if the value of x is very, 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 very high, if the value of x is very, very, very high, this number or this function will try to approach 0. This function, that is 1 over x minus 3, will try to approach 0. Now it's gonna approach 0. It's gonna approach 0 only when x is equal to infinity. Only when x is equal to infinity. But do we know what exactly is infinity? No, we do not know that. So x will approach, 1 over x minus 3 will approach 0, but it will never be exactly equal to 0. But it will never be exactly equal to 0. See, understand this? Let me put this in a different way. What I am saying is it possible for 1 over x minus 3 to be equal to 0? If it is possible, then I can also say 1 over 0 should be equal to x minus 3. Because when you say that 1 over a is equal to b, then you can also say that 1 over b is equal to a. Right? So, if 1 over x minus 3 is equal to 0, then 1 over 0 should also be equal to x minus 3, but that is not possible mathematically. So when you'll have, the bottom line is what I'm trying to explain you guys here is that when you're going to take a very, very, very high value of x, 1 over x minus 3 will definitely approach 0. But will it be exactly equal to 0? No, we can't say that. You may have a million zeros after decimal. You may even have like 25 zeros after decimal, and then at the 26th position you may have 1, but that is still not equal to 0. That is approaching 0. It's not equal to 0. So 1 over x minus 3 will be very, 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 very close to 0, but it will never be exactly 0. So if I talk about the range, I'm gonna have a open bracket from 0. I will not have a closed bracket. It's not possible. Okay. Now let's look at the higher end of it. If I want to make 1 over x minus 3 as big as possible, I need to make x minus 3 as small as possible. If I have to make 1 over x minus 3 as big as possible, I need to make x minus 3 as small as possible. Which means x needs to be as close to 3 as possible. Now as close to 3 does not mean x is 3.1. Because 3.01 is closer. 3.001 is even closer. 3.0001 is even closer. Then 3.4 times 01, this is even closer. That means 3.000, let's suppose 100 times and then 1, this will be much more closer. Which means I can say that this value will be approximately equal to 0. Like very, 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 very close to 0. So the overall fraction, that is 1 divided by approximately equal to 0, will basically be approaching infinity. So the maximum value that you can have is infinity. So this will become the range of this function. That is 0 to infinity with close. with open brackets, because it will never be equal to 0, and infinity, we do not know what exactly is infinity. All right, this one was, you need to think it through. All right, anyways, no problem. Let's move on. Okay, pause the video and try this question, please. All right, let's try this one. So I need to find the range of this function, that is root of 9 minus x square. Okay, now first of all, I need to calculate the domain of this function, because I need to know from what all possible values of x I can have. And this is fx is equal to root entire root 9 minus x square. Okay, now if I want to calculate the domain, I know that 9 minus x square should be greater than or equal to 0, which means 3 minus x into 3 plus x should be greater than or equal to 0, which will give me the result that x will be from negative 3 to 3, including both the values. Okay, because if, let's suppose if you take x to be 4, then 9 minus 16 is negative, and root for negative is not defined. It goes to imaginary or it goes to iota. So x is from negative 3 to 3. Now I have the range. Oh, sorry, my mistake. I have the domain with me. I have the domain with me. I just need to calculate the range. So I told you that when we spoke regarding the definition of range, that whenever you provide the corresponding input values, the output values that you receive, that is your domain. Okay. So when you're going to plug in all these values from negative 3 to 3 in this function, and when you'll receive an output corresponding to that, that will basically be your range. So if I'm going to put x is equal to plus minus 3, I'm going to get fx is equal to 0. Because 9 minus 9 is 0, root of 0 is 0. When I'm going to put x is equal to plus minus 2, then I'm going to get root of 5. When I'm going to put x is equal to plus minus 1, then I'm going to have root of 8. Then I'm going to put x is equal to 0, then I'm going to have fx is equal to 3. So the maximum value that this function can have is equal to 3 when x is equal to 0. And the minimum value that this function can have, or the minimum value that this function can give you, that is fx is equal to 0 when x is equal to plus minus 3. Now you may have this question that how did you figure out when x will be 0 at that point of time you will get the maximum value, and when x will be plus minus 3 at that point of time you're going to get the minimum value. So again, we're going to use our logic. Think about this logically and then answer me. If I want to maximize If I want to maximize 9 minus x square, what do I need to do? Leave the function, leave the question, just think about this. If I want to maximize 9 minus x square, what do I need to do? If I want to maximize this number, I need to ensure that x square is minimum, because I'm subtracting x square from 9. So in order for 9 minus x square to be maximum, I need to ensure that x square is minimum. And it's a square. When would it be minimum? At 0. It will be minimum at x is equal to 0. Because apart from that, you take a positive value, you take a negative value, squaring that will automatically give you a positive value. So you'll always be subtracting something apart from x is equal to 0. So at x is equal to 0, you'll have a maximum value of root 9, which is 3. If you want to have a minimum value, if you want to minimize this, then you will have to take x to be as big as possible. You need to take the maximum value of x, which will give you the maximum value for x square. And that will automatically come out to be plus 3 or minus 3 because that's the domain. You cannot go beyond domain. Okay, so that's the concept. I do understand calculating range, it's a bit difficult, no denying on that part. That's why they don't ask questions on range usually in SAT, but if in case they do, you should be prepared for it. Domain is the main concept, domain is the main concern. Okay. Alright, so we just one more question, and that is basically on domain. So this is fx is equal to 2 divided by root of x minus mod x. You need to calculate the domain for this function. Pause the video and try this one, please. Interesting question. Alright, let's try this one. So in this case, I basically have three functions to take care of. I have 1 over a function, I have something within the root, and I have modulus. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to solve the modulus, because unless and until I solve the modulus, I won't be able to solve x minus mod x. If I'm unable to solve that, I won't be able to solve the root. If I'm unable to solve the root, I won't be able to solve 1 over fx. Okay, let's start with mod. Now, if you know the basics of mod, and if you have gone through the videos that I have uploaded on modulus, I've explained how to open the modulus. That is the critical point theory. So when you talk about modulus, mod of x, remember that this is equal to x when x is greater than 0, and this is equal to negative of x when x is less than 0. Right? So if I'm going to take the case 1, when x is greater than 0, in that case fx will be 2 divided by root of x minus x, which is basically equal to 2 divided by 0, which is not a real outcome, or which is not a possible value. 2 over 0 is not defined in math, so which means you cannot take any value of x greater than 0 into consideration, because whenever you will take any value of x greater than 0 into consideration, mod of x will be equal to x and x minus x will be equal to 0. Then we're going to take case number 2. When x is negative, so this will become 1 over x minus of minus x, and I'm going to remove this positive part, and this will basically give me the value of function as 1 over 2x inside root. Now I'm writing it here. When x is negative or less than 0, then my function is 1 over, I'm not taking this 2 into consideration as of now, okay, so don't get confused that why I'm not using this 2. I'll take care of that 2 later on. 1 over root 2x. Now the problem is, I have solved the mod part, now I have come to the root part. And the problem here is that if I'm going to take x to be negative, x minus mod of x becomes 2x, no denying on that part. But I have taken x to be negative. Can I take a negative value inside the root? Can I take a negative value inside the root? Because this x has to be negative. This is negative. Can I take a value of x in, can I take the value of x to be negative inside the root? No. This is again not possible. So when you're taking x to be positive, then it's coming out to be 2 over 0. When you're taking x to be negative, then it's coming out to be 1 over root 2x. X being negative, it cannot be inside the root because you will not get any real values. So if someone asks you what is the domain for this function, then domain for this function is simply phi. That means no possible domain. You cannot input any value of x. From negative infinity to positive infinity, you can't even input 0 because when you do input 0, it will again come out to be 2 over root of 0, that is 2 over 0, which is again not defined. So the domain for this function is simply phi, which is there are no possible values, there are no real values which you can provide as an input. So this is more or less everything regarding domain and range which you need to know. I've taken the most difficult examples which can be asked in the exam. So nothing more you need to know as far as your exam is concerned. Alright. So thank you so much guys for watching the video. If you have any doubts, if you have any concerns, any questions, please do let us know. You can mail us, you can WhatsApp us, or you can also put that in the comment box. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. Let your friends also know. Help us in growing the channel so that more students can learn for their exams for SAT, GMAT and GRE. And if you're looking for any personalized classes for SAT, GMAT and GRE, you can always let us know. We're always there to help you out. Alright guys, thank you so much. Keep watching and keep learning. Thank you so much.